February 24th, 1978. You have five men, really close friends, gathered in Chico, California.
Gary Mathias, Jack Madruga, Bill Sterling, Ted Weyer, and Jackie Hewitt.
They were guys who lived by routine, they were athletes, and their entire focus was on this Special Olympics basketball tournament that was happening the very next day. They were so excited about it.
So after a practice game, around 10 p.m., they stop for snacks, a couple of pies, some milk, and then they get back in the car for what should have been a short drive home to Yuba County.
But they didn't go home.
Not even close. They drove in the complete opposite direction.
She vanished. And what comes next is this chain of events that is so bizarre, so full of contradictions and, frankly, investigative screw-ups, that the case gets this really ominous nickname.
The American Dyatlov Pass.
So today we're doing a deep dive. We're going to unpack the facts, the very unreliable witness accounts, and the total systemic failure that let this happen.
And we're going to try to answer the question that sits at the heart of it all. What could possibly be so powerful, so terrifying, that it would make five men drive 70 miles the wrong way into the freezing woods and abandon the one thing that could have saved them?
Okay, so let's start with the men themselves, because understanding who they were is absolutely key here.
They were all highly functional adults, even with their various intellectual challenges. Their families were adamant about this.
Yeah.
These were men of routine.
Right. And Jack Madruga, who owned the car, and Gary Mathias were both Army veterans. So, they weren't strangers to discipline or even basic survival ideas.
And that's the crucial context. These were not guys looking for some spontaneous adventure.
No.
They had a huge tournament the next day. Their families said there was no way they would have jeopardized that. Something forced them off their path.
Okay, so 3 days go by. It's February 28th. And a forest ranger finds the centerpiece of the whole mystery.
Madruga's Mercury Montego.
Found on this remote, snow-covered road deep in the Plumas National Forest. We're talking 4,400 feet up.
And right away, the scene is it's absurd. The first report said the car was stuck in the snow.
But that wasn't true.
No. The big storm hit after they abandoned it. When police got there, the car was unlocked. A window was rolled down.
Keys were gone.
Keys were gone, but... and this is the part that gets me, it had a quarter tank of gas, and it started right up when they hot-wired it.
So they had a working car, a warm shelter, and they walked away from it into a snowstorm.
Exactly. And this is probably the biggest single failure of the entire case. The car.
What happened?
Duke County, where it was found, just treated it like any other abandoned car. It was never dusted for prints.
No fingerprint.
No prints, no trace evidence, no hair, no fibers. Nothing that could have pointed to a sixth person being in that car with them.
So if someone else drove them up there or forced them out of the car, all that evidence was just lost.
Wiped away. Gone forever. And it gets weirder. Investigators noted the undercarriage of the Montego was barely scuffed.
On a rough mountain road.
Right. Which suggests really careful driving. Was that just Madruga being careful with his car? Or was it someone who knew that road like the back of their hand?
And there was a witness nearby, wasn't there, Joseph Jones?
Yeah, and his story is, it's a mess. His own car was stuck, and he was in the middle of a pretty serious heart attack. He said he saw lights, heard whistling, saw a group of people.
He also mentioned a woman and a baby at one point, didn't he?
He did. He later admitted he was probably delirious from the pain, so you can't trust the details. But what you can't take away is that something was happening out there by that car.
Something that scared five men away from a working vehicle.
Something that made them start walking.
Then the big storm hits. The whole area is buried in snow for months. The search just stops.
And everything is frozen in time until the thaw in June. And when the snow melts, the discoveries begin. And they are horrific.
The first bodies found were Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling, over 11 miles from the car.
Found on opposite sides of the road. The remains were mostly skeletal. But there was one thing they found on Madruga that was just chilling.
The car keys.
Car keys were in his pocket.
So he walked 11 miles into the wilderness, but he kept the keys. What does that even mean? Was he planning on going back?
That's the question, isn't it? Or did he think they were only going for a short walk to find help?
2 days later, they find more remains. Jackie Hewitt.
His father actually identified his son's backbone under a bush. The skull was found about 100 yards away.
What could be animal scavenging, but it's strange.
It is, but none of that compares to the main scene, the place that defines this whole mystery.
The Forest Service trailer. And Ted Weyer.
Yeah. This trailer was at the Daniel Zink campground, maybe? What, 12, 19 miles from the car? deep in the woods.
And inside, they find Ted Wire. He's dead, on a bunk, wrapped tightly in 8 sheets.
Like someone was trying to care for him.
And the forensics here, this is what makes it so tragic. Based on his beard growth and the fact he'd lost almost 100 pounds.
100 pounds.
The coroner figured he survived in that trailer for 8 to 13 weeks.
8 to 13 weeks, so he was alive well into May. Months after they disappeared, his feet were just destroyed by frostbite.
Yeah.
Gangrenous.
The scene inside that trailer it's a paradox. On a table, they find his wallet with cash still in it, a necklace.
And a gold watch that nobody recognized. It wasn't his. It didn't belong to any of the other men.
And maybe the most important clue of all, Gary Mathias's tennis shoes were in the trailer.
Which heavily implies he was there, right? The theory is that he swapped his sneakers for Wayer's heavier leather boots before he left, probably to go for help.
But let's talk about the resources in that cabin, because this is where it all falls apart.
This is the part that makes absolutely no sense.
Okay, so they were starving. We know that.
Right. And they had found 36 empty C-ration cans. One was opened with a P-38 can opener.
A military can opener, something the Army vets, Mathias or Madruga, would have known how to use.
Exactly. So they knew how to get into those cans.
Yeah.
But here's the kicker.
In another locker, completely untouched,
Was a huge supply of dehydrated food.
Yeah.
Enough to feed them all for a year, probably. They ate 36 cans and then starved to death next to a feast.
And it wasn't just food.
No.
Mm-hmm.
The heat. The trailer had a propane tank outside. It was full, and it was hooked up to a heating system.
All they had to do was turn a valve.
They never touched it. They also had paperback books, matches.
Mm.
They could have started a fire in the fireplace. Never did.
Why? Why starve and freeze when food and heat are right there?
The theories mostly circle back to Gary Mathias and his schizophrenia.
Yeah.
He was off his medication.
So maybe paranoia set in. He thought the food in the locker was poison, or that turning on the heat was a trap.
That's one possibility. Another is that with their cognitive challenges, maybe they just didn't understand how to work the propane heater. Or they were afraid that using the food in the locker was stealing.
A choice between starving and stealing? That's terrible to even think about.
But there's an external factor here that's just as tragic. A massive investigative failure.
The lost tip.
The lost tip. In late February or early March, when Ted Wayer was definitely still alive in that trailer, Forest Service workers told the Butte County Sheriff about it.
They told them a shelter existed at that location.
Yes, but because it was further up the mountain, deeper in, they just dismissed it. They never sent a search party up there. They had snowmobiles. They could have gotten there.
That one decision, it likely cost Ted Wayer his life.
It's a direct result of the jurisdictional chaos. Yuba County had the missing persons case. Butte had the car. Plumas had the bodies. No one was in charge. No one was connecting the dots.
And that chaos bleeds directly into well, let's call it what it is, the forensic scandal that followed.
With Dr. Liptrap, the pathologist.
Yeah.
Yeah, this part it's bad.
He listed the cause of death for Madruga, Sterling, and Hewitt, who were just skeletal remains, as hyperthermia.
Which is medically almost impossible to determine from bones alone. You need soft tissue.
And there were no other tests done, right? No toxicology, no x-rays to check for broken bones or trauma?
Nothing. And basing Wayer's survival time almost entirely on beard growth. That's not reliable science. It feels like they were in a rush to close the case. Just label it death by misadventure and move on.
But the story didn't end there. Years later, the official narrative actually changed.
It did. A 2020 Yuba County Sheriff's internal memo got out, and it reclassified the case. It states that Gary Mathias is believed to be a victim of foul play.
A victim of foul play.
And that the whole thing is still an open missing person/homicide case.
That's a huge shift. 40 years later, they're basically saying they believe someone else was involved.
It gives a lot more weight to those foul play theories. You know, that someone forced them up that mountain, maybe with a false promise of help or at gunpoint.
And it all comes back to Gary Mathias, the one they never found.
Did he leave that cabin to be a hero and just got lost in the snow? Or did his psychosis finally take over, setting him running into the wilderness where no one would ever think to look?
And you still have that one last strange sighting. Madruga's niece was sure she saw Gary alive in a bar a year later. It never ends.
So when you pull it all together, what do you have? This isn't really a story about an inexplicable mystery of nature.
No, it's a story about a cascade of human failures.
Exactly. The failure to process the car. The failure of 3 counties to work together. The failure to follow up on a critical tip. The questionable forensic work. All of it guaranteed that the truth died up on that mountain with those men.
The fact that the car worked, that Madruga had the keys in his pocket the whole time, it tells you that the option to be safe was always there. They could have gone back.
Which leaves you with the one question that really matters, the one we can never answer. What specific threat, whether it was a person or a delusion in their own minds, was so absolutely terrifying that 5 men chose to walk miles to their deaths in the snow instead of staying inside a warm, running car? Whatever happened in those first few hours by that Montego, that's the real mystery here.